Hmm.
Somebody pays you their rent every month and they pay their utility bill, right? But then out of their rent that they pay you, you then have to pay all of the operating expenses for the property, including property taxes, building insurance, common area maintenance, whatever. And then you have your profit, right? So if your property taxes go up or your insurance goes up, which has been very common in commercial and multifamily properties today, then you're taking a hit to your bottom line as the investor, right? Whereas in the triple net world, it is structured differently to where the tenant pays you a base rent, but then they also pay you additional rent, which is the common area maintenance, property taxes, and building insurance. So the tenant is actually fully responsible for any expenses above and beyond, um, their base rent. So if your property taxes go up or your insurance goes up, or maybe you're like Nashville and you have an ice storm once every couple of years, but it's very uncommon, and now you've got to spend money on salting and de-icing the parking lot, which wasn't in your budget, then you pass that expense on to the tenants. You don't take a hit to your bottom line as the investor. So it's far more predictable income than anything else. And tenants actually appreciate it too, because they know that the money that they are paying you is being spent on properly maintaining the common area. So, one thing, because I get that asked all the time, why would a tenant actually do that? Well, if you're Starbucks and the cleanliness of your parking lot and the maintenance of the landscaping is part of your image and brand, you want to make sure that that's being done properly and that a landlord isn't just charging you for it and then pocketing it and maybe not spending as much on doing everything that needs to be done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So I love triple net leases. It's a great structure. It's one of the best benefits of getting into commercial real estate investing.
There any drawbacks, or I mean, could anybody get started straight, go directly to triple net, or Who's it for?
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that it is market in your area, right? If nobody else is doing a triple net lease structure, then it may be tough for you to do a triple net lease structure. So just make sure you talk to your brokers, talk to your attorney. But also, I mean, as far as drawbacks go, the biggest thing is the education. So if you're talking to a, Dollar General, or you're talking to, you know, Walgreens, like these massive, corporations that have a ton of locations, or even regional groups, right, that have 3 locations or 5 locations, they tend to know what a triple net lease is. Whereas if you're dealing with more small businesses, they don't understand it. And so now you have to educate them on what it is. And, they can just get easily confused by it. So that's one thing to be aware of.
How's the cash flow versus, I guess, is that more of an equity play with triple net, or because I don't know if it's six of one, half dozen the other, um, or is this more of a just a equity, or value preservation?
So, yeah, it's a great question. So it depends on the type of triple net deal that you're doing, right? If you're buying a 20-year, Walgreens lease, right, single tenant net lease deal, then it's almost a wealth preservation type of play, right? Because they're going to have very few rent increases. The property is going to go up in value, sure, but it's going to be more of, hey, they're paying down the mortgage for you, and you're keeping your equity, right? So at the end of it, you'll have a lot more equity when you sell the property to 1031 exchange it into an even bigger property. That's kind of the game with these triple net leases, is allowing tenants to just continue building that wealth for you. But you could also look at a Class C shopping center that is 50% occupied with, maybe modified gross leases where, the landlord is responsible for paying all the expenses except for maybe the utilities, right? Maybe the tenants pay their own utilities. Well, that's a huge value add play, right? You could come in, lease up the other 50% of the shopping center, do it all on triple net leases. And then as the other tenants that were already there turn over, you could start converting those into triple net leases. And now that you've removed the operating expenses from your NOI is going to go up, right? So subsequently, the value of the property could increase. So there's a couple of different ways to approach it. I mean, that could be a cash flow play or an equity play. It just depends on how you want to approach the triple net deal.
Now, you're a big fan of the value add. Uh, how are what are some methods for adding value to a particular uh, property when it comes to commercial?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the value add play because when it comes to commercial real estate, you can force appreciation, which you cannot do in residential real estate. So when it comes to forcing appreciation, just signing a lease will increase the value of a property, right? So, for example, I bought a small retail building, 2,200 square feet, put it under contract for $435,000. We went out and signed a lease, didn't do anything else. Signed a lease and it appraised for $650,000 because of the income. It's based on the NOI and the investment potential of that property. Um, Redoing the paint on the exterior of a building, always a good move. It's something that tenants will pay for because it just increases the appearance of the property. Same with sealing and striping the parking lot. Um, you could, of course, split the spaces up into smaller units and then increase the price per square foot. So, you know, if you're splitting a space in half, but you're raising the rent by 20%, the all in monthly rate is still going to be a lot smaller for the new tenant. So there's many ways to add value. You could even do it operationally, right? If you get in there and you see, oh, well, they're paying the property management firm 8% and they're not doing anything. Let's bring in a professional group for 6% and, get better with our books. So there's all sorts of things you can do that will add a significant amount of value to the property.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about commercial real estate versus residential real estate is that it doesn't matter how much you improve or how creative you get on a residential, property. Your value is directly linked to how much somebody paid for the house next door.
That's right.
and, and when it comes to commercial, you can get the value is based on how well you operate that property, right? Uh, it doesn't. I mean, it wouldn't want to put gold plated toilets in there, but it's about that net operating income.
That's
How
right.
much you
You
bring
you
in
get
versus
rewarded for the work.